Okay, let's get started. Who of you thinks about herself is a strong communicator? Give a hand sign. Who thinks is a strong communicator? Do you think, turn around, how many hands? It looks a little bit. Do you think that I would get in a group of men the same result? Second question. Who of you thinks about herself she is a social or empathic person? Raise your hand. Oh. And actually this means you are bold communicators already. So, because bold communication doesn't mean to be a really strong presenter and to run presentations like crazy. It also means that you can actively listen, that you can connect with your audience, you can talk to people. You can talk to people in your private life, and it means that you're also raising in conversations effective questions. So if you don't get something, you raise a question. You use a strong, simple language, which we will practice today. Your body language is really supporting your message, and this is something, and of course you seek participation. And one of the really main basics is you're a social, empathic person who is interested in other people. And when you have this, you're already a bold communicator. But maybe you think, I'm not a good communicator because I don't raise my voice in meetings. I don't like to say something. I don't want to stand up out of a crowd. And maybe you have an experience where you think, this happened to me in the past. And the first task I want to do is reflect on a situation where you felt like, I'm not able to speak up. And after you felt like, why I haven't said something? And think about why you did this. So just write it down in your notebook. What was the situation and why you haven't spoken up? So everybody seems to be ready. So maybe when you wrote down why you haven't spoken up, you think, okay, is it something which is common? Is it something special to me? And we just summarized or collected some of the main reasons why women especially are not speaking up. So I want to be the nice girl. I don't want to send a bad message. I don't want, everybody should like me. So this is one of the common reasons I also thought in the past about myself. But in a work environment, I feel there's a difference between likability and respect. So think about why you want to be liked, or do you want to be respected, actually? And of course, there are some topics you don't like. So even I don't like to talk about salary raises. It's not my comfort zone. If I'm doing a presentation, this is my comfort zone. But if I need to negotiate my salary, not my comfort zone. If one of my directs wants to negotiate his or her salary with me, it's also not my comfort zone. So this kind of tough talks, nobody likes in the first place because it's out of your comfort zone. But if you don't raise your voice for yourself, who raises the voice for you? Normally nobody. So if you feel this is a topic which you're really passionate about, and you know it won't go through and you won't get some resistance, you need to grow yourself and just speak up. Second is, and this is something because we are working in a quite male-dominated environment, my voice doesn't matter. And this is really not true. First, there are researchers who show that a company with a diverse leadership creates 90% more revenue. So companies with diverse teams are much better than just a male or just a female team. So that means your voice matters. You adding a different flavor to the soup. And this is why you should say something. You should not stop just saying, okay, they are just men. Maybe I have a complete different opinion on something. Really, you add a different spin. And I guess this is what we hear at all. Women are talking too much. And there are researchers who show that in a conversation, in a meeting, even if the part of the women talking much more less than the men in the group, women are perceived as more talking. This is a stereotype. So even if we would say nothing, there are researchers who show, yeah, this woman was talking so much. She doesn't say something, but it's just perceived as this. And I feel this is something we can't neglect. It's like we perceived. But why caring so much? At the same time, women are more perceived as really being more empathic, being more gentle with others. So just ignore this kind of stereotypes. Raise your voice. If your opinion matters, and you should say something. And this is my favorite, because this was in the beginning of my career. I was like, in many meetings, I was feeling like I don't get what they want from me to do. But if I say something, everybody else is not saying yes. If I ask a question, I will look stupid. You will never look stupid. You will look more stupid if you then execute something and haven't asked a question. So first, asking question is a key to a conversation. It means you just know if the other one on the other side got your message if you ask a question. If you don't understand the task, you can't execute the task. You need further. And what I also realized, especially in crowd meetings, where you feel like, when I raise the question, normally two other people look like this, and I feel like, yeah. So this is not just me who has this in mind, and you don't look dumb. I never met any boss who said, oh, if you raise questions, you look dumb. Actually, they are sometimes really happy about somebody raising questions. And now my absolute favorite is, women are seen as too bossy or aggressive when they speaking up for themselves. This is something, if you're the only woman in your team or your leader, you will say, other women even tell me I'm bossy, I'm bitchy. This is not how it should be. And you're not. You just speak for yourself. There's nothing wrong with, and there's even nothing wrong with sometimes being bossy. And I feel if you just make your point clear, it's really necessary. At the same time, as I mentioned before, we are seen as more empathic and more social. And then this is why I think we have already the superpower in us. We just need to use it in the right way. And maybe the next exercise will help us. Because I want you that you turn around to the other two or more people, tell the situation you have written down before, and explain the situation, and also think about how you would do something differently.
So, I hope you're all inspired by each other's stories and learned something. I want to actually talk about something completely different. This slide says, I only have one pack of flour. I want you to imagine you're in the supermarket and you are at the cashier already. You're unloading your enormous cart of groceries, and it's entirely full. And there's an old lady that comes behind you and she says, I only have one pack of flour. I mean, we've all seen this, right? Obviously, every normal person, you let her pass. And you let her go first, because otherwise she will have to wait for all your groceries. But if you actually look what she, take away the whole context and look at what she's saying. She says, I have one pack of flour. What does that mean, And this is the problem, like we all understand what's going on because there's a context. You are in the supermarket, the lady is going to wait for you, so you let her pass. But what if you would get this over email? I only have one pack of flour. What is that, right? So that's the problem that we have in work, because at work a lot of our communication is written. It's emails or chats or presentations or documents, and you need to be extremely clear on what you want. So how communication works, as I said, the context is really important. You are one sender on this side who lives in his own context, in the orange bubble. There's a message going out to the receiver, and the receiver lives in their green squared context. So there's a lot of things that can change. On top of it, the message that you're sending, there's a lot of noise around it. I mean, we already have it here, right? If you're trying to have a conversation and there's so much noise, it's very difficult to get actually every word that everyone's saying. So I have an exercise for you, and my lovely assistant here is going to give one person in every group, a paper. And what is on there, it's a picture. So exactly, she's going to hand this out, and you can unfold it at the moment that the exercise starts. You cannot show it to your group member or your partner that you're working with, and what you're going to do is your partner is going to draw the message. Draw whatever is on that paper. And what you're going to do, if you're the sender of this message, you're going to keep your hands glued to the paper. You cannot show too much. Try to be very neutral. Try to be an email. Try to explain in words what your partner needs to do. And actually, you only get 2 minutes for this, because we're in a work environment, so we're under pressure and time is limited, right? So the minute I say go, you are ready, your partner is going to draw, or maybe two partners. Just don't look at each other's paper and try to get the message across as good as you can with a most neutral message that you can also do. Are we ready? Go! Okay, ladies, can we go back to the headphones? And here. So, how did that go for all of you? Oh, am I in the way? Is everyone on again? Okay, yes. Did everyone see what they were supposed to draw? And how much your picture actually looked like it? I saw the lady over there in red who was literally drawing out, because that's what you naturally do, right? Instead of being the email and trying to not do it at all. She's saying she also found it very difficult to describe. There's a language problem. I understand. Yes, this is very difficult. But all of this you have in your email or in your written conversation, right? If you try to give someone a task to do, it's really difficult. So I have a couple of tips on how to make that easy. The first one is going to be precise. And this is exactly what you just did, right? Try to be precise. Try to be... Okay, in the top left corner of this paper, there's a half circle, and you draw it with with a distinction to the left or something like that, right? And I have an example here for women who work in tech. Is there anyone who works in tech? Yeah. So, or maybe did the agile training just before. We write tickets, right? We write tickets for our engineers who have to code a piece of software to make an app, for example. So that's what I have here, and I have an example. It's not entirely readable, so I'll read it out loud. It says the app needs a menu to go from the main page to my profile and back. As also, I want that I can access the wish list directly from the homepage. for this, we need to build the menu on top of the screen, and also at the top, we need the wish list that should look cute. Okay, great. I mean, I used real life examples of things that I actually see in my daily life and in my daily work. So there's sometimes a ticket like this, and it's not pretty. Because, okay, we all know what a menu should look like, but a menu could be, as you see in the image here, on the left side, could be on the right side, could fly in to the left, could fly in from the left, could fly in from above, from below. It could be transparent. It could be anything, right? And there's nothing specified. So how do you make this better? First of all, I start with I need something, because I specified in the first one, I want that I can access. I'm nobody in this whole process because I'm not using the app, but the user is. So for any engineer who wants to code something, they're always going to ask you, but why do we need this, right? Because they don't want to do any work either. Like, they're just as us. So you say, as a user, I need to be able to navigate from the main page to my profile through a menu. And I want access to my wish list from the homepage of the app. Actually, that was quite a good message, right? The wish list directly from the homepage, because it gives indication what you want to do. So the second part was very problematic, because everyone could have written any type of code, and a wish list that looks cute is very subjective. So what I did, I split them up. You can write, look, the menu, I need a 3-stripe burger button. That's the little 3 stripes. They call it burger buttons. On the top left corner of the app, which opens the menu, half screen fly in from the left. I specified what I want. With 2 buttons in there, home and profile, because I said I want to navigate from home and profile and back. And for the wish list, I need an orange heart-shaped button in the top right corner of the app. So it's very clear what someone needs to do, what the button needs to look like, and what it needs to do, obviously. Okay, so next tip. It's all very logical, right? But it's very difficult in practice, and I must say I even sometimes struggle with this. Be concise. Basically, it means be as short as you can be. What can you remove, right? If you write an email, how often don't you write an email that is almost a novel? Nobody's reading that, because nobody's interested in your life story. They're interested in what needs to be in there. So one of the things that you can always do is try to write it in half of the words that you just did. And I have an example, which is an amazing compilation of emails that I have received over the last couple of months. So I'll read it out loud again so you get the grasp of what's going on. Hi, stakeholder. First of all, thanks for being so honest. We really appreciate your direct feedback! Exclamation mark. However, I do feel a bit sad that you're so critical. To come back to your questions. No, unfortunately, we didn't make the deadline and had to delay the go-live day just with 1 day. This was done because we needed to have an extra quality check, but our colleague was on holidays, and then there was more urgent projects in our department to finish first. Your question about how we continue is super important as well. So we see us cooperating on more projects in the future, but I don't really know how. I will have to ask my team lead how that all works. We could maybe schedule a meeting so that we're on the same page, question mark. What do you think about this question mark? Would you be up for that question mark? Again, thanks for sending your questions. It's amazing to get your opinion on matters, and have an amazing rest of the day. It's a compilation, right? It's a compilation of worst practices ever, but this happens in real life. Obviously I have improvements for all of this, which is, it's going to be a very professional email now. It's going to be very clear and short to the point. You don't need to take everything for, this is the best way to do it. But all of the things that are read, you could just take them out or shorten them, right? First of all, you start with, first of all, thanks for being so honest. We really appreciate your feedback, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for your email is enough, no? And it's an easy, so what I like about thanks for your email, thanks for your honesty in this case, because I think the stakeholder was very critical about missing a deadline and wants to know how that goes in cooperation in the future, right? So it's fine. You can also say thanks for your honesty if you really want to say like, okay, I appreciate it. But this person didn't appreciate it, because if you say, however, I do feel a bit sad that you're so critical, you didn't want to hear that, right? But don't say it. Leave your sadness for when you talk to your mom or to your boyfriend or to your guru. I don't care, right? It doesn't need to be in a professional email. I also always have a bit of an issue with the word unfortunately. Unfortunately, means that fortune or luck was in there. This wasn't luck. You decided that you wanted to do an extra quality check, right, for your stakeholder. It wasn't luck that decided that, so just cut it out. Also, the go live with one day, your stakeholder already knows this. You don't have to say any of that. Then the whole thing, the explanation, right? First of all, do you want to give it at all? Because it's a thing that happened, you can acknowledge it, you can say, okay, we did it, we did that. If you want to give explanations, you don't do it like this, right? You don't say, yeah, you know, my colleague was on holidays and then we had other priorities. That's your stakeholder doesn't care about your colleague, doesn't care about your other priorities. Your stakeholder, she cares about what you can do for her. So if I would rephrase the first part of this, I just say thanks for your email. We delayed the go live to assure a high quality of our final product while working on limited team capacity. Everyone knows that you want high quality for your stakeholder then, and that you have a limited team capacity like everyone else in the world, which means that you also have to make priority decisions on delaying a deadline, yes or no. Okay, then we have your question about how we continue. Super important. We're not Superman, we're workers, so just leave the super out of it. We see us cooperating. I don't really know how. My team lead needs to be involved. I have no authority on what I'm doing. So what you say is, yes, we need to align internally, because it might be a decision that you cannot take on your own, right? It's fine, but you don't have to explain every little thing that happens in your team to your stakeholder. And then there's 3 questions that actually say, can we schedule a meeting? But there's nothing in those questions that actually helps your stakeholder. So as you rephrase it, you say, let's set up a meeting with all stakeholders involved for next week, Tuesday, 4 p.m. or Wednesday, 11 a.m. You already suggest that, look, you want to do this meeting, you really want to do it. You already know when you want to do it. It's going to be next week already. You know, if you send this on a Thursday or Friday, the stakeholder also knows that it's actually an important meeting that you want to do. And you directly asked for a call to action, right? Stakeholder, come back to me with the time that is best for you. So you get really an involved stakeholder after this who has to agree on this meeting, yes or no. Then there is 2 more sentences here below. Again, thanks for sending your questions. It's amazing to get your opinion on matters. Again, you don't, it was already there. Leave it out, leave it out, leave it out. And have an amazing rest of the day. Yeah, I mean, is every day of yours in your office amazing? Do you know if your stakeholder is having an amazing day? Maybe he has to go, I don't know, to a funeral right after, and you just wished him an amazing day, or her. Just leave it out. You can wish anyone a happy weekend if it's Friday afternoon, right? We all go into a weekend, that's fine. But just try to keep it on the low. There's no need for all this extra blur. As I said, it's a very factual email. After I do this, I even struggle with this myself. I would put in all these things 100,000 times, but there's ways to practice and to get rid of it. Really, just try to cut it in half. That's literally what I did. Okay, then I have a bonus. This is an email I got this week, and that's also why I blurted out. I didn't even paraphrase it. Not precise and not concise. The too long didn't read. Does everyone know what it is? The TLDR. So, okay, this email starts with "Dear colleague," then there's a sentence, and then there's the TLDR. Okay, that goes wrong already, right? The TLDR is there. That should be the first sentence. It should be the first sentence, one long. Second problem with this is the TLDR is only half of what the actual long version is. I counted the words. There are 96 in here and there are 216 in here. If you're going to write a TLDR, really summarize it. Keep it short. Keep it as short as you can. That's why it's there, right? And then this was an email about how we all need to do a new certain set of trainings because something went wrong and they changed something. Then you see here, we will conduct 5 sessions for this training, and you can choose which one is the most convenient for you to join. Maximum capacity limits may apply, so please register early. Details and invites will follow soon. In this email, there's nothing that is useful for me. You see? TLDR means too long, didn't read. Yes. Okay. So anyways, there's a whole set of information. All this information is in here twice. And then on top of that, I cannot do anything because I don't know yet when the trainings will be, how long they will be, and what the capacity limits are. And this was a man who sent me this email. So it's not only women, don't worry. Okay, so my other tips and tricks, I kept them a bit shorter. I don't have really large examples for this. So one of the things you can do is take another perspective, right? If I send an email that is a bit maybe more tricky or that might come across as aggressive, or I think about, okay, what would happen if I sent this email to my mom or to my grandma or to anyone, you know, in your family? What would they think? You can also ask a colleague, right? I mean, this is a common practice, but really if you're sending important emails or important messaging, let someone else read it and take out all the words you don't need or anything that's unclear. The expert level would be really try to imagine your stakeholder or the person you're emailing. In what kind of work situation are they? Are they able to read the long message, or are they able to just, you know, quickly scan emails and think about, okay, how can I adjust my message for them, right? Then the second thing is, the good thing about any written communication is that it's asynchronous. You don't, you know, I don't need to respond immediately. There's time. Nobody expects you to email within 2 seconds, right? And if they do, then that's their problem, not yours. So what you do is you write it, you take an hour, or you just go to the toilet and come back and then look at it again. Right? It's so stupid, it's so simple, but nobody does it, and even me. Especially when you're angry or sad or frustrated or whatsoever, and this happens to me all the time. I've sent emails that I shouldn't have. So it applies to everyone, I swear. And maybe a bit ridiculous if you're in a big open office, but I do it. I read my messages out loud. If I'm sending an email, I sit there and I talk to myself. All my colleagues are anyways wearing headsets all the time, so it's fine. You read it out loud because what you do is you take out formulation problems, right? If you type an email quickly, you miss a verb, or you've erased parts and then the sentence doesn't work anymore. So, and spelling mistakes, you take them out as well if you need to read something out loud. So in terms of effective communication over written email, this would be, you know, try to practice this. It's all by practice. As I said, I'm not perfect, nobody is perfect, and you shouldn't be. But you can really make it a lot more clear if you try and be precise, keep it short, ask someone else or think about someone else, because we can do that. Take a pause, wait and revise, look at it again, or try to read it out loud. Just look like an idiot.
All right. So we have now heard so many tips and so many advice, and I'm sure everybody's practicing, is trying to get better, and is becoming a better communicator. But here are some tips about how not to kill it in one sentence. And raise your hands if you think you're apologizing way too often. I am. I can tell you that. So what I want to speak about is minimizing language. What is that? Any kind of filler, apologizing, any kind of I think I could be wrong, but maybe I just want to add, and da-da-da-da-da. And this is actually, it's getting worse when we're under pressure, when we're presenting, when we're in a meeting, when we're interrupting a male colleague. The good thing is, men are apologizing as much as we do. But, as Henriette said, it's perceived in a different way. So, why is it important to cut this down? Because we want to get our message to the receiver. We want to be precise, we want to pay attention to all the things that we just discussed. And we want to be really strong, be full behind it, and we want other people, we are already presenting it, but we want other people to understand it as well. So what we can do about it? Basics. Everybody has heard about Just Not Sorry for Chrome. Anybody's using it? I cannot use it at work because it's blocked, but it's a really good thing. You should check it out. It basically deletes all your Just Not Sorry content of your emails. And as was just mentioned, and this is amazing practice, it's super simple, take a step back and have a look. What I'm doing, and when I'm really sending out, especially angry email or really like email that I really want to kind of make some impact, I ask my colleague, a trusted colleague that I feel that is not going to judge me, and she cuts out mostly like 20 to 30% of my emails. She basically said, there's no need for this sentence. So this is one thing, and minimizing language is the kind of quick win. You can pay attention to it, and most people are very well aware of it. And but we actually also discussed in the first part the situations when we're out of our comfort zone and there's lots of eyes on us and we're under pressure and we want to still be nice and not cause any conflict. And the problem is undermining our own statements. And this is something that far less people are aware of they're doing. What is basically happening? I'm a buyer, so I negotiate for a living. So you make a statement, and you immediately sense the kind of the contra, the sentiment is like, we don't like it. And then I start kind of saying like, yeah, well, we want this because this. And basically what happens is like, you come somewhere and you say, I want a unicorn. But basically, a white horse with a plastic horn would be fine. But basically, a white painted donkey would be also fine. So of course the person is not going to give you a unicorn because you just said yourself you are fine with a donkey. Because you're under pressure, you want to make your request more acceptable, and you basically start, drowning into the kind of justification of your own request. So this is a tricky one. And I can tell you I have seen both men and women doing this, and I also seen the worst cocky machos doing this. So it's a problem with everyone. Everybody wants to be accepted, wants to be nice, doesn't want to cause a conflict, and we fall into this pattern. What you can do is basically for yourself reflect, when is this happening for you? I can tell you very often salary negotiation. That's right there, the situation. You don't want to come across as a not nice person. And it's very important to actually identify this for yourself and practice it in a situation where it just really doesn't matter. Where actually the income doesn't really bother you. If the other person won't like you, well, that's fair enough. It's probably a different case if you're negotiating a salary with your boss, with whom you want to work in the next couple of years. And get feedback. Actually, what my boss started doing whenever we're in a call, and I fell into this pattern, he just goes like this. To kind of show me that whatever I'm saying after my request just does nothing to me. There is no purpose, and I'm not getting anywhere. So yeah, and practice, and this is where I hand over to you.
Yeah, because it was a lot of information, everything you can do, and I feel then you maybe go on Monday to the office and you feel like, yeah, I need to check my written conversation, I need to do it in meetings, put out all my minimizing language, I need to be in presentations much more stronger. Really, don't try this. You will just first load heavy pressure on yourself, and second, you will for sure fail. So stop perfection. So really, just do something. First, get into action. First, if you have issues to talk about freely, just start talking. Your opinion matters. Raise your voice. Don't consider all this perfection in your mind. If you want to start talking to people, start talking to strangers. Talk to the cashier at the supermarket. Really talk to the people at the U-Bahn. I know it could be weirdo, but just try it. Really just do it in conversation which don't matter to you. So don't start with directly tomorrow with your salary negotiation. Could be a little bit tricky and challenging. And then think about what would Oprah do. So this is how I learned communication was. I looked for mentors in my company. I looked for people who I admire for being a strong communicator, for people on social media like Brené Brown, also people you really, really like communicating, no matter if it's a man or a female representative. I even recommend you to have two. One female, one male mentor if you have this, because it's always two sides to it. So if you have an official program in your company or you have something like this, really use it. If you don't have it started, raise this because... And then one thing I learned over my career is I've volunteered quite often in meetings, in team meetings. In meetings which don't matter for anyone else, just explaining stuff, just showing stuff, just training other people, really where I could then practice speaking freely, because then in situation where then I was sitting in a management board meeting, I was not caring so much who is sitting in front of me, because first they are just humans, and second I wanted to get my message through. And what helped me also in the beginning, even in meetings where I was so shocked and paralyzed and so shy, I took notes. Without saying something, I took notes. Then I went out of the meeting. One day after I looked at my notes, I was frustrated because I didn't say something. Then, by more practice, I took notes while I was saying something. Then I stopped the notes, but then said something in the meeting, and then really from just practicing, taking notes and getting in the written conversation better, I got automatically in the speaking better. And one last thing we want to do with you is think about one key takeaway from today where you feel like this is something I want to do from tomorrow onwards. I really want to set this live, and get back into your groups, tell it to the other people, and maybe you continue also on the thing we had in the beginning of our workshop where you want to exchange how to solve not speaking up and how to make it better from today tomorrow. Thank you.